So today we're going to talk about 5 things to cook with your kids this summer if you're not in homeschool, and if you are in year-round homeschool like we are, 5 things to try to teach your children how to cook this year. We're also going to just hit on a little bit of a couple of the benefits of cooking. We're going to just jump right into the video. Okay, hi, my name is Amanda from Learning to Love Well, and if you are new to this channel, we talk about everything from homeschool from a biblical worldview. I'm sorry, I do sound a little stuffed up. I'm not 100% sure why. I actually had to turn down the air purifier in here because it was super loud during the video recording, but who knows, right? We were just out in the garden. I got eaten by bugs picking raspberries, so maybe that has something to do with it. Today, we are going to talk about cooking. Now, I have talked about cooking and the benefits of cooking on this channel, so I'm not going to go down a giant rabbit hole. But I am going to harp on one particular benefit that I was really kind of just like when I was thinking about, praying about what I need to do with this video, that kind of stood out above all the other benefits. So very quickly, I will say this. Cooking obviously does a couple of things like math and reading. You can kind of deduce why. You know, there's a ton of reading in cooking because you have recipes and things like that. There's math because there's ratios, there's measuring, all of those kinds of things. Chemistry, so you think about like baking soda and your leavening agents and those kinds of things. You have chemistry. You also have chemical reactions, kind of the basics. But today, before we get into the 5 things you should totally do this summer or this year if you are in year-round homeschool with me, is talk about one of the benefits that is covered in the previous video that I think is so valuable, and that is confidence. That might seem like a weird reason to teach your kids how to cook, but it's not. So a lot of the things that we do in life, we become proficient at and confident in. And one of the things that we have lost in a lot of our generations is the idea that we can do things. Like without running to the store and buying pre-made meals. You would be surprised how many people are not comfortable just baking a loaf of bread or making a recipe from scratch because they don't have that confidence built up that they can actually do something with their own hands that doesn't come in a microwavable container. If you are like me and you're baking your own bread and all of that, it might actually sound far-fetched that there are actually people out there that cannot cook. Cooking from real ingredients and being able to learn how to make things from scratch that you would normally buy at the store is actually a huge confidence booster. Not just for adults to be able to know that they could be sufficient to use raw ingredients to make a meal, but also for our kids. And when they start becoming confident that they can learn how to do things that they thought were impossible, that is where the confidence is. It's just like when you learn how to fix your own car or, put in an electrical unit in the wall or things like that. You start to realize that the things that you thought you couldn't do are actually learned skills that will be able to be perfected with knowledge, with training, and with learning. I think some of the reason why we don't really think of it that way is because of the fact that in our culture, we have become very convenience driven. If you are someone who hasn't spent a whole lot of time in the kitchen or maybe fixing your own vehicle or planting a garden or any of these things, they sound hard. In fact, sometimes they can sound impossible. But something that we can tackle with our kids that helps build their confidence that they can tackle more than they think is in the kitchen, which is why I'm saying that this summer, if you have not started teaching your kids how to cook, I want to encourage you. These are the 5 things I recommend trying because it will make cooking seem way less daunting. If you can do these things, you're going to be like, oh wow, the things that look super hard that I thought I could never make in the store are actual simple recipes that I can do for myself. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into the first category, and throughout the week I'm going to try to maybe make some of these recipes and put it on screen, show you some finished products of either stuff that I've made alongside my kids or things that they've made. Put those in there so you can see it. Okay, so the first category is Jell-O and gummies. Y'all, gummies are expensive and they're actually super cheap to make. So I recently just put an order in with Azure Standard, and I bought beef gelatin. Now before that, I had bought Great Lakes gelatin off of Amazon, I think, and both work fine. Just make sure it is gelatin and not collagen. But with this, you can make Jell-O, and it's super easy, or you can make gummies. The ratios are a little bit different, and obviously for the gummy molds, or for the gummies, you're gonna wanna put them in cute little molds and stuff like that. Last night, I made Jell-O. It was literally a three ingredient, 10-minute recipe that we got to enjoy today. It was a jar of organic juice. I put honey in it to sweeten it, which you don't have to, and gelatin, and that was it. And from there, we made a whole tray of Jell-O. This could not have been easier. I've also made gummies in the past. The hardest part about making gummies, in all honesty, is making sure you can get it in the molds before it solidifies in your little squirter. But other than that, it's actually a lot of fun, and it is totally a confidence builder for your kids. Now, we've made like elderberry gummies out of homemade elderberry syrup and things like that, but you don't have to do that. You can just grab a jar of juice, of your kid's favorite juice. There are some juices that do not get along with gelatin, so be sure to look that up. But other than that, super easy. It's literally juice, gelatin, and if you're gonna sweeten it, or maybe some water if you're gonna cut the juice. Other than that, super easy. I will actually link the recipe that I used for Jell-O underneath the video, and I will also link a recipe for gummies. So with that being said, Jell-O and gummies is something that you could work on this year, or this summer, or this year if you're year-round homeschooling, that your kids are just going to be blown away at the fact that they can make their own Jell-O and gummies at home, because it seems like it's hard and they didn't have to grab a package. Okay, so the next thing that I recommend you making either this summer or this year is bread. Now, we do sourdough in our house. You do not have to do sourdough. We're also starting with fresh milled stuff, but you don't have to do that. Just a plain old yeast bread can build your children's confidence so much. And bread, when it comes out of the oven fresh, it is beautiful with butter and jam. And it builds your kids' confidence to know that they can make their own bread. It doesn't take very long, and bread recipes can be as simple as water, honey, yeast, and flour and salt. So because of that, it is really not a hard thing to make, but it does seem like it would be hard. But once you master a bread loaf, and it's really not that hard. Most of the time you put the water, the yeast, and your either sugar or honey in the bottom of a bowl, let it proof, add the rest of your ingredients in, let it rise, punch it down, let it rise, mold it, and then put it in, let it rise again, and then put it into the oven. It really is that simple, and it really does make you feel like you can cook almost anything when you start making basic bread product recipes. The next thing that I would totally recommend learning how to make this summer or this year is scones. Now, scones are not very popular here in America unless you're more on like a high, I guess you could say like a fancier restaurant or a fancier cafe or things like that. But they are fluffy, they are delicious, and they feel like you've made something very, very fancy. And they're really not that hard. The hardest part is grating the butter, freezing the butter and then grating it and then sticking it in your pastry, and then watching them puff up and get beautiful and delicious. We use a sourdough scone recipe from Farmhouse on Boone. I will link that down below. But if you do not want to make it with sourdough, there are scone recipes out there. Always double check your recipes to make sure they don't look like they've been written by AI, because apparently there is an issue with that, and the AI isn't very good at recipes, so it'll glitch a couple of things and you can get your recipe way off, which could discourage your kids rather than make it easier. But if I find a reputable sourdough scone recipe. I will also link that down. The reason I say scones is because when you start getting into fancier, higher end cooking, if you think that you could never make it at home, it will always be something that you buy. But when you start tackling some harder things that you think like, oh man, I could never make that, and then you start tackling it and making it yourself, you would be surprised how much of a confidence booster it is to realize that not only can you make it yourself, but most of the time it turns out better at home than it does at the store. One of my children who is very proficient at making scones, and it is a huge confidence builder for him because he knows that he can make it. Okay, so number 4, and this is for your tiny tots, make popsicles. That sounds so easy, right? Just make popsicles, and you can get so creative. Like there's orange frozen popsicles that you can make, and it does make a sweet treat, by the way, which is really nice. You can make cream popsicles, you can make juice popsicles, you can make lemonade popsicles, and they're really not hard to make. But for your tiny ones, if they have never made anything in the kitchen before, it can be such a fun experiment where they think they have accomplished this huge task for like kindergarten, first grade, because they made their own popsicles. Plus, it can also be easier on the budget if you don't want to buy a bunch of popsicles this summer. There are very cheap molds. If you don't want to do molds, you could put a piece of like cellophane over maybe an ice cube tray or something like that and try to experiment with different things. I know some people have put them in cups and make kind of like fatter popsicles. You know, you can do a lot of things. There are plastic molds that you can buy off Amazon. They're rather cheap, but it is an option. And when little kids start making their own popsicles, they enjoy them a lot better because they feel like they made them with their own hands. And it's a huge confidence booster that they can do way more than they think they can, because popsicles kind of seem kind of cool in the store. You can get super creative. You could, freeze multicolor popsicles. You could put one layer of juice, let it freeze, stick another layer of juice, let it freeze, and so on and so forth until you have like a multicolored popsicle. Really, the sky is the limit. You could make red, white, and blue popsicles with like blue juice, and then put lemonade, and then put cherry juice on top. You could do so many things with your kids using and doing popsicles. The last thing that I want to recommend you making this summer is ice cream. Now, when I say this, you could make fancy ice cream. If I have an ice cream maker that was given to me a long time ago, it makes like actual like creamy ice cream, but you do not have to do that. You could make ice cream in a jar. There used to be a Ziploc bag. I don't know if you guys remember it from grade school, but you would put all the ingredients in one bag, and then you'd put salt and ice on the outside, and then you'd shake it really well, and then you'd end up shaking it and passing it around until it made ice cream. You could totally bring that back. Now, I know that seems super like old school, but sometimes old school is old school for a reason. Like, it was really fun, it was really cool, and it taught us that we actually could make our own things at home. So if you are non-dairy and you're like, I can't make ice cream, you can actually take frozen bananas, put them in a Ziploc bag, peel them, put them in a Ziploc bag, let them freeze completely, stick it in a blender, and bananas alone will make an ice cream consistency that is just purely bananas. And you can stick fruit in it to flavor it, you can put chocolate chips in it, you can put protein powder in it. The sky is the limit. You guys could have so much fun making your own banana ice cream. And it's so simple, and it's healthier. And it is a great way to show your kids how they can eat healthier and make good nutrition decisions and all of those things without even having to do a huge course this year or this summer. Now, me and my children, my kids are pretty proficient, other than my tiny tot, are all pretty proficient in the kitchen. And that's just because of some of our curriculums and them helping me in the kitchen just on our everyday tasks. But if you have not started with some of these, it can be a huge confidence booster to your children because they feel like they not only can cook for themselves, but that they can turn and use useful skills that will get them ready for their next seasons of life. So I hope you found these 5 items pretty simple. Like I said, I already have some good recipes that I'll link below. Some of them, like banana ice cream, like y'all know, y'all can do that. But if it's something that is a little bit more complicated, like a scone, I'll stick the recipe that I like. And like I said, if I find a non-sourdough recipe, I will also stick that in the description. I hope you guys try this. It is amazing to see your kids when they feel confident in the things that they can accomplish and learn, and that it's not just big people tasks, like they're capable of doing it and they're capable of making things that they never thought they could. It really does help them advance in whatever profession that they're going to go into. Everyone can benefit from learning cooking skills, even the boys. My boys do cooking. And I know that that might be controversial, but honestly, what I have found about my boys cooking is that it does build their confidence that they are able to do things on their own. They feel okay if we're not with them 24/7. You know, they feel okay. They feel confident in being able to cook lunch or cook dinner or make something for me and their dad if they want to. And it gives them the skills that when they go to college or when they move out, that they're not dependent on takeout or all of those things. But it also teaches them that they are capable of learning any skill that they need to learn for life. And it's a beautiful thing. It's wonderful that we get the opportunity to instill that in our kids. And so I hope you found this list helpful. If you have another good idea of something that you would want your kids to learn, or good recipes that you think that other parents should try, drop a comment down below. It's a lot of fun to share and collaborate with anyone who has good ideas, and I love sharing recipes with friends. So with that being said, I hope you get something out of this video. Excuse the appearance. It's been a week. And so I hope you have a wonderful day. God bless, and good night.